All right, looking good here. I think we'll get going. Thanks everybody for joining the next in our series of new product introductions. Of course, this is going to be our partner IronRidge. Um, let's go to the next slide. The product, of course, is the Halo Ultragrip that we're going to be, Ani will present to us today. First, I'll start with just a quick summary of Green Tech and how the webinar works. As usual, we're going to give out data sheets at the end of the presentation as well, but you can access them during the presentation just from the handouts tab, of course. And then please feel free to ask questions as we go. Ask any questions you want to about the product or, of course, Green Tech, and we'll take turns answering them at the end. Let's take a look at the next slide. We are, of course, Green Tech Renewables Engineering. That's my team. We're a nationwide service center within Green Tech. We have a technical sales and engineering network. We can handle any kind of project or product all across the country. And if you have a Green Tech account and you're a Green Tech customer, then you have 24/7 access to this service. Let's go to the next slide, Ani. So now I'll let Ani take over and do her introductions and lead us into the product. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks so much, Stuart, and thanks everyone for joining us. We're very excited to be here to introduce you guys to our new product, the Halo Ultragrip. Susan Stark, our Senior Training Manager, is going to be joining us for the technical Q&A at the end of this session. And I'm Annie Nowitney, Director of Sales for the Eastern region for IronRidge. I have been in solar since 2009 on the module side, DC optimization, and have been here at IronRidge for 4 years now. And looking forward to introducing you to not only our product, but the process that we went through to arrive at such a fantastic product that will improve the installation process that you guys will embark on. All right, so welcome everyone, and thank you for attending. We're going to walk through this new product, IronRidge's Halo Ultragrip. This is the latest quick mount attachment to join our suite of solar mounts, and it offers some breakthrough technology that I'll walk through. It requires no pilot holes, no sealant injection, and no butyl shimming. The Halo Ultragrip delivers a simplified installation experience with a superior 3-tier flashing system that IronRidge and quick mount attachments are known for. Our designers and engineers were very concerned about water intrusion, especially after evaluating some of the other products on the market. We took a page out of the FlashFoot 2 playbook and designed a redundant approach. The first is the cast perimeter encircling the base, creating a protective barrier like a halo protecting the roof. The second is our unique 2-part EPDM foam and proprietary mastic seal. The paper release liner makes it easy to install without a big mess. Our unique flashing system seals and adheres with the shingle surface. We call it Ultragrip, the Halo Ultragrip, or for short, HUG. The conforming EPDM foam and mastic fills the space between every roof granule, forming over gaps and shingle step downs up to 1/8 of an inch thick. When combined with the Halo, you get a compression fit and encapsulate all the granules so water cannot penetrate. A critical feature of the Halo Ultragrip is this screw. We actually went out and tested over 100 screws, and we couldn't find a single one that would stand up to the rigors that required to perform for one of our installers. So we went out and built one. Some notable features include a self-drilling tip that would penetrate shingles easily to eliminate the need for pilot holes, a buttress-style thread that holds well in both the deck and rafter, and a concave stainless and EPDM washer that lets the installer know when it is fully seated. The diameter of the screw creates a discernible difference between installing in deck versus rafter, but it's going to minimize wood stripping in deck installations. We also want you to be able to easily distinguish that you've missed a rafter while still using an impactor. That meant that the head strength needed to withstand impact driver installation without shearing the head when installed in a rafter. All of these requirements came together in our proprietary RD structural screw. Using a different screw with the Halo Ultragrip will impact the mount capacity and the warranty. It must be paired with the RD structural screw. We cannot stress this enough. Hug is engineered and tested for use with this screw. And as you will learn in this presentation, the RD structural screw is responsible for making the Halo Ultragrip up to twice as strong as other similar products. We also gave this product an adaptive attachment pattern. Why? Because we know finding rafters is hard. So we're giving installers 3 tries to find the rafter. Put the first screw where you think the rafter is, and if you hear the impactor labor all the way down, you've hit it. Place the second screw in the opposite position. If you miss, the screw and impactor will tell you. Fully seat it and try the left or right position. Most installers are going to hit on the first or second try. Put a screw in the opposite position and never remove any of the screws. And if you strike out finding the rafter entirely, just leave the screws in and fully deck attach it. This mount can also be used for vertical oriented rail as well. So I want to pause for a minute and just talk about how we got here. For years, IronRidge and QuickMount brought you the highest quality comp roof flashings, fully tested for roof protection from water intrusion. This required us to slide a metal flashing under a row of shingles to the 3rd course. But now the roofing industry is using powerful adhesives to bond shingle layers to prevent wind damage and delamination. This, coupled with the solar industry's desire for speed and simplicity, led us to develop a product that meets those needs while still providing the flashing system to protect the roof. IronRidge has been watching this emerging market, testing competitive products on our torture roof and listening to installers. Looking at what our solar friends did, we indeed learned a lot. Some of them chose to fill a cavity with sealant. That could mean pumping it into a void or applying it into a base. The problems associated with that solution is 1, pumping sealant is messy and hard. 2, sealant is expensive. And 3, you can't install it below 40 degrees. We've even seen jobs where installers forgot to fill the cavity. Some have a thin layer of butyl, silicone, or EPDM for waterproofing. However, the thin layer can't accommodate the shingle steps, so shimming these steps is required by these guys. This means getting scissors out and perfectly cutting butyl tape and putting it under the step. But we're not sure that installers are actually doing this up on the roof. Furthermore, guidance is not necessarily provided on how to properly shim when you're navigating these steps. Then there's the pilot hole situation. Most of these products still require pilot holes, and we learned that missing a rafter was one of the biggest leak risks. Install temperature is another important differentiator. Sealant shouldn't be applied to a roof under 40 degrees, and butyl is limited to 22 degrees. Hug can be installed from 5 to 118 degrees ambient temperature and ticks all other boxes as well. So when we look at Hug, we don't require pilot holes, we don't have to fill a cavity with sealant, and the mount is self-shimming. The Halo Ultragrip is available in both mill and black finish, sold in boxes of 20, and the screws are sold separately. This was done intentionally because we will be qualifying additional screws for other roof types. Because the product design means it may use more than 2 screws per mount, screws are packed in bags of 120 in boxes of 600 pieces. So now that we've got your general interest, let's talk about how we know this mount is strong and watertight. Before embarking on this Hug testing journey, we surveyed the existing code-based tests and didn't feel that there were enough stressors in those tests to solely rely on them building confidence for a product meant to last 25 years. So on top of the code-based test, we developed test scenarios that would give us the confidence of a 25-year life product. We incorporated things such as how the product performs on dirty roofs, wet and icy roofs, older roofs, hot roofs, and cold roofs, and many other conditions we know installers see on a day-to-day basis. Many of the tests were done in combination, such as humidity freeze, followed by thermal expansion and contraction, followed by another round of humidity freeze, followed by water column test. So we really put these mounts through the ringer. Here's one of the tests that we had a bit of fun with. We ran 50,000 gallons of water over these mounts over 10 days. Note that this is a low pitch roof, the worst case scenario for a composition shingle roof, which by design, remember, is water shedding, not watertight. With all our products, we do work to evaluate the user experience. We'll often check to gauge how well the product will install in different scenarios with the typical tools used and how the installation time compares against our own and competing products. These installability tests were meant to ensure that the skill sets of installers and the tools currently used on the roof would lead to a strong and watertight installation. I should also mention that all of IronRidge roof attachments are tested and evaluated without sealant, and this includes HUG. This product is now fully certified, UL listed, and also has Florida product approval. It's also important that we don't call this flashless. Early entrants to this market latched onto the term flashless as a way to describe their products. But not only do roofing manufacturers require a flashing for a product to be in compliance with their warranties, but the requirement is code required as well. The good news is UL is expanding their concept of what is considered a flashing, and HUG has a 3-tier polymeric flashing system comprised of the Halo Cast perimeter, the 2-layer foam adhesive layer, and the custom structural screw that when combined form a watertight barrier. HUG has a code-compliant flashing system. We now have proof of its compliance, as stated in a recent report from Intertech. A nationally recognized testing lab listed HUG as the first mount to reach polymeric flashing UL 2703A evaluation. Now let's discuss the structural testing. With all of our roof attachments, we provide PE sealed structural certification letters, and HUG is no different. We carried out the same series of tests needed to support those certification letters with the added condition of testing for the deck attached application. We utilize ICC and ASTM test standards, which are relevant to metal to wood structural connections like joist hangers. These test protocols require that the parts are tested to failure and a safety factor of 3 is applied due to the critical nature of a potential failure. Looking at test reports by other manufacturers, many use a safety factor of 2, and some have caveats like deck attachment assumes a minimum 8-inch distance from all OSB panel edges, and also have lower capacity when the screws are offset. Let's take a look at the photo on the right. We are only using 4 screws. We'll put a pin in that for later. Let's do a deep dive on structural capacity. As a rafter attached mount, the performance of HUG is on par with a 5/16 inch lag flashing solution. However, due to the symmetrical design and by using 2 number 14 screws on either side of the loading point, the uplift capacity on this mount is actually on par with arguably the strongest single lag product on the market, our FlashFoot 2, at over 1,000 pounds uplift. And remember, that's at 3 times safety factor. The rafter split at over 3,000 pounds uplift. And let's see how it performs in just the deck. You can see that the decking thickness and the ability for the screw to hold into the deck was critical here. And that's why we designed our own RD structural screw. Remember the slide where we were testing with only 4 screws? To be very conservative, just in case the screws hit a seam or strip out, which we've confirmed in field with installers does happen, we've discounted 2 of the 6 screws, holding power, and only used 4 for testing purposes. Even considering the discounted 2 screws, the Hug mount is far and away the strongest mount of its class in the market. Hug is literally twice as strong. Due to variations in the testing methodologies, you need to read the engineering reports and make an apples-to-apples comparison. This chart lists the comparative strength of competitive mounts, but differences still remain. Some manufacturers discount the number of screws used, and some don't. Some tested their product on half-inch structural plywood rather than OSB. This also brings up the problem of designers using IronRidge engineering to design their systems and then having the distributor or installer swap out their attachments. Note the thermal break requirements on the bottom row, with Hug allowing a full 60 feet before a break is required compared to others at just 14 feet. So let's talk about thermal breaks. It's really important. Aluminum rails will expand up to 1 inch more than the roof on a large residential array on a wooden structure. This necessitates thermal breaks between long arrays. The roof attachment must move to accommodate the expansion and contraction without having its waterproofing mechanism compromised. Guidance is provided by the manufacturer of the racking system on the required thermal breaks. However, the mount is a product that will have to accommodate the movement without breaking its water seal. One of the things we learned during our early development phases was the significant impact thermal expansion can have on these types of products with polymeric flashing systems. Without a metal flashing, attachment bases can cookie cutter into the shingle, and fasteners that have stripped the wood can work themselves loose, jeopardizing the ability to maintain a water seal. So it's important to consider the effects of thermal expansion and contraction in the design of your system, especially when using this type of mount. In this simulation, you can see how Hug is performing under this stress. It floats over the roof and the screws don't gap or strip. Sealant-based mounts also have shorter thermal break requirements, but in this case, they are hidden in the appendix. So if we don't think your installers are reading the installation manual, chances are they aren't reading the appendices. Also note that you are not allowed to use an impactor when installing this product, which was a key requirement for our RD structural screw. K2 changed their mounting instructions in January 2023 regarding thermal breaks without revising the document. They removed the reference to thermal break requirements and now provide no guidance at all. If you choose to use third-party attachments, you also need to follow both their mount capacity and thermal break guidance. Here's an example of a company that doesn't make the entire rail-based system, just the mounts. They provide guidance in their installation manual on page 2 that recommends a thermal splice every 14 feet. That means every stick of rail would begin a new array. This entire system landed in the front yard during Hurricane Ian, and thank goodness no one was hurt. Catastrophic failures can occur due to not following thermal break rules and not considering the lower mount capacity. As we've demonstrated, engineering with IronRidge products, then swapping out roof attachments has significant implications. And remember, this doesn't apply to just mounts, but swapping out any parts of IronRidge engineered solution, which can produce a lower capacity and void the warranty. If you are using our engineering, then swap out a part that changes mount capacity, thermal break requirements, or even the rail bolt holding the rail, you become the new engineer of record. That's why it's critical to buy and install fully engineered systems. Buying a full stack system from IronRidge means that the components have been tested together. We understand their capacity and therefore they hold our 25-year warranty as a system. I want to show a couple of projects, recent installations that we've done. This one here was done in Pensacola, Florida. This one only took 2 hours to complete from start to finish. So there were 3 layers of shingles, which made rafter finding more difficult, but the rafter-friendly design of Hug kept the installers moving at record speed. The operations manager was blown away that he could now confidently schedule multiple projects per day. This project that was done in Cambridge, Massachusetts was actually our very first Hug installation. It was done on a super cold day, 22 degrees outside. There was actually frost on the opposite side of the roof the entire day. So it's a very good thing that Hug can be installed from 5 to 118 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. These installers really appreciated the 2-inch adjustment slot on the old roof. And the open slot also makes it fast and easy to use with all IronRidge racking types. And they also found out how rope friendly the product is on such a steep pitch. This is a project that was done in a high wind region using light rail, and it was constrained by 2 obstructions on the roof. And they actually used a column of deck mounted Hug attachments to manage cantilever near the obstruction. This kept them from having to drop a module from the project on the right. This kept them from having to drop a module from the project. In the picture on the right, you can actually see a box of Chemlink that they showed up to the job site with, and that actually went right back into their truck, and they were able to save time, mess, and money on the job. So we always recommend that you approach the installation through rafter attaching Hug when you can, but here's a common scenario when deck mounting does make sense. And that commonly happens when you have a hip roof construction and you're building from the bottom up, and suddenly you run out of rafters at the top. Being able to deck attach at appropriate spans eliminates the need to block inside the attic. But if you've planned for a rafter attached project and suddenly have to deck mount, how are you going to know what your proper mount spacing is? So IronRidge's Design Assistant is going to provide all of the values you need on your project report, even if you specify rafter attachment. So first, you're going to receive your rail span and associated rail cantilever, which is outlined in the screen in green. And this is based on the strength and span capability of the rail that you choose. Second, as shown in orange, is the rafter attached span, which will most likely be the same as the rail span, since Hug has the same capacity as a lag product like Flashfoot 2. Lastly, in blue, the report will provide deck attached spans based on the worst case scenario of 7/16 OSB decking to provide guidance when it's necessary, such as in a hip roof scenario. Here's the portrait design, rafter attached. The attachment spans are ruled by the rail. Deck spans are ruled by the maximum uplift capacity of the mount. Designing with Hug fully deck attached will populate 6 screws per mount, and if the required span is lower than the span entered, mounts and screws will need to be added in the bill of materials. In this scenario, any panels in roof zone 3 will need to be spaced at a maximum 3 feet 2 inches rather than the specified 4 feet. So in the bill of materials page, you'll be able to add spares to account for the additional mounts and screws. The features and benefits of IronRidge's Halo Ultragrip provide material and time savings. And this analysis was actually put together by one of our installers after a number of installations where they were analyzing both time and material savings that they were realizing from transitioning from traditional flashing to the Halo Ultragrip. Through meticulous design, development, and rigorous testing of the Halo Ultragrip, we deliver a simplified installation experience, uncompromised watertight seal, and the confidence of a 25-year IronRidge warranty. The Halo Ultragrip is stocked in GreenTech locations throughout the country. So what are you waiting for? Let's try it on your next project. And from there, we are happy to take some questions on this new product.
We might not have a lot of questions. That was a really
Andy, that was
thorough
very
presentation.
thorough presentation. And we do have some questions.
Let's see, are we going to be testing Hug for use on metal
Sure. Can you hear
roof
me
with
okay?
self-tapping screws into the purlins? Sue, do you want to take that one?
So the Hug hasn't been evaluated for metal roofs yet because we don't have a screw specifically for that application. However, if someone wants to pre-drill the metal, we know that the mount will be waterproof on metal. We just don't have that in our installation manual yet.
Okay. Next, Sue, can it step down on a lifetime or 50-year architectural shingle, which are thicker?
I think it's called Solar Women, and they posted a picture of their installation on Instagram, and they perfectly cut away the decorative tabs on those presidential style shingles in order to accommodate the Hug mount where it won't allow it to self-shim above 1/8 of an inch.
All right.
Okay. We have not qualified this product yet.
There's
for
a question on
roofs,
EPDM.
And that's normally where you'll find EPDM. So right now the product is specified for pitches of 2 pitch and above, which is 9.5 degrees and above. And that's on rolled asphaltic materials or comp shingles. So that's 2 pitch and above. We don't believe that products that have an exposed EPDM washer are a good fit for low slope roofs. We also believe that the height off the roof of the Hug mount is not compatible with low slope roofing systems.
Excellent. Anthony is asking when it will be available to purchase. So this product is available to purchase now, and it is stocked in GreenTech locations throughout the country. So please reach out to your local rep, and they will be able to direct you.
We also have a question from Frank, which I think is applicable,
the nearest
which is,
location that is
pad
stocking.
made of? So I'd like to explain that the pad, the flashing system, is actually made up of about 1/4 inch of EPDM foam, and we trust EPDM on rooftops. And the proprietary mastic seal that is on the bottom of that EPDM foam is a mastic that's been made and utilized by a roofing manufacturer for many, many years, I would say decades. But we're keeping that to ourselves and we're calling it Ultragrip. Yes, it can go over a single sheen, and as Annie suggested or stated very aptly in the video, we have tested all of our mounts without sealant, including that 50,000 gallons of water over 10 days. Many of those were over seams and over step downs. So we tested those applications without sealant. However, as a belt and suspenders approach, we believe it's just best practice to put a a very small bead of sealant right above the seam if the screws are going directly through that seam. And we have a list of compatible sealants in our installation manual.
Thanks, Sue. I'm just seeing.
I think we have
I noticed that there were no handouts in the handout tab that were uploaded yet. So I don't know if we have time to do that
Thanks.
at the
We
end,
also
or
have a
we should
question from
email them. But I
Lauren.
just going to let you
Is
guys know.
sealant recommended like RT minis, or is it not needed at all? And the answer is no. We actually do not want you to put sealant under the mount or around the mount. We feel that, as you saw in the video of thermal contraction and expansion, this mount at a 60-foot thermal break is going to be moving side to side pretty significantly. And that means we actually don't want you to surround the mount with sealant. We feel that that would actually break free, especially on a long array. We have another question from Taryn. If we have to change the position of it after install, will it be possible without affecting the strength of the glue below it? We do cover this in our installation manual. And if you've already put, say, one screw into the mount, it may be difficult to get off the roof because the Ultragrip is so sticky. However, we find that if you dig down into the granule layer, you can remove the mount if you haven't got all the screws in it yet. You inspect the bottom of the mount to see how many granules are stuck to the mount itself. If it's full of granules, we suggest that you don't reuse that mount. If it has a few, and we show some representative pictures in our installation manual, you're allowed to reuse that mount in a different location. Eddie asks, so if you pre-drill, you can use the existing screws. This question came up recently, and we had our team of engineers review the answer to this. And we've decided that if you wanted to pre-drill for the screws, you could use an 1/8" bit, which is essentially the size of the shank of the screw, and then you can drill the screws in. But we don't want any screws that are outside the screw attachment pattern of the mount. So we want to make sure that any holes that are drilled in the roof are underneath that pad, the sealant stack, and inside the screw attachment pattern. Brandon is asking a question, does this conform to UL 3741? UL 3741 is not an applicable standard in this case. That's a standard for PV hazard control arrays. However, it is compatible with the new standard. It's actually an outline of investigation, UL 2703A. And Annie, I think we're going to give this to you. How does the price, we're going to give this one to you. How does the price compare to the other asphalt shingle mounts by IronRidge?
What was that? Yeah, so pricing is comparable to our flash view.
Todd has asked, what were the details on the slide where you presented the GAF shingles? I'm going to reiterate that because it's really important. Back in 2019 or so, GAF and CertainTeed, the biggest shingle manufacturers in the US, introduced new sealant technology in order to keep from having warranty claims on wind events. So they made a new sealant that locked the shingles together from the first to the second and the second to the third course. It creates a mechanical bond between these shingles layers, which makes it very difficult on these newer shingles to separate shingles to insert a flashing. And that's what that slide was about. That's a great question. We did testing around
can it be installed on wet or damp roofs?
And what we found was that we didn't want to recommend installing in the rain. However, when we did test, we found that the screw drove a little bit of water down to the underlayment level. We retested and found that no additional water went down to the underlayment level once that original amount of water came down with the screw. Kurt has asked, are you offering different heights to clear vents? And the answer is no, but this mount is actually a good height off the roof, and it allows your typical installation of about 3.5 inches to 5 inches or so off the roof, depending on the racking system you're using. And it has a very long 2-inch adjustment slot. If rubber shingle,
is it approved
you
on
mean
rubber
like
shingle
an
roof? Did you
F-wave
cover
roof,
that one, Sue?
that's sort of a newer composition of things that look like composition shingle roofs. We're currently testing the F-wave shingles, if that's what you're referring to.
All right.
Daryl asks if there's a problem with metal roof expansion. So number one, we aren't qualified for metal roofs yet. And metal roof expansion is an issue, especially if you're attaching through it, through bolting into the structure. So that's a problem that we're not having to deal with yet because we're not approved for metal roofs yet.
And Angie from our marketing department did post some resources in the chat for everybody to access, and we can also email those out, Stuart, after we close up here.
Thanks.
Do we expect to get approved for EPDM, at any point in the future?
But we're to reserve the slope to approve it too, and we doubt that it will be approved at very low slopes like quarter slope. And Kurt also asked about PVC and TPO. We don't have an issue with the material itself, it's more the slope that it's usually installed on. However, the mount is still only currently approved for asphaltic-based rolled roofing and composition shingle roofs.
It's all really great questions. Will the screws come with each hug, or do we need to order them? So the screws are separate, and the reason is because it does have the adaptive attachment pattern, and because there is the potential for separate screws for different roof types in the future. So because you could be using anywhere from 2 to 6 screws per hug,
reiterate that they're sold in boxes of 600, but bags of 120 inside, so that they're more tool belt friendly.
I also want to mention that what we have seen in terms of feedback from installers is that we've made rafter finding approachable. So a lot of installers have transitioned into, okay, we're only going to deck mount our attachments, whether they're whatever competitive mount they are using, and then when they start to use hug, they approach it first as a strictly deck mount product, and then they realize, okay, well, if we miss the rafter, it's not that big of a deal. We're still going to be using the same screw, and then ultimately they end up starting to use it as a rafter mount, and somewhere between 2 and 3 screws per attachment. And so we have made rafter finding approachable again, which then you're now using fewer mounts per installation.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're seeing people using about 2.2 to 2.6 screws per mount, but we suggest that you show up with about 3 screws per mount on the job site in case you have trouble finding rafters. If there's maybe 3 layers of shingles or some tongue and groove decking, it's a great thing to have extra screws on the job just in case. However, like Annie said, it's much more financially viable to use 2 to 3 screws per mount than all 6 every time.
All right.
Annie, I don't think that you mentioned the free t-shirts.
I forgot. Yes. So the first 50 registrants got free shirts. So we will be getting the names of the first 50 registrants. I was supposed to mention that at the beginning of the webinar, but better late than never. So we will be sending those
Daryl
out.
says, on steep roofs, we use the first rails to stand on. I have to say, Daryl, from my experience in the field, this mount is really solid and it feels great against your stuff.
I don't think we're getting any more questions.
Those are some really great questions.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, I like to, whenever I see a new IronRidge product, it's great to see the thoroughness of the testing. You know, that's a behind the scenes thing that is always like my favorite part of these presentations.
It is a lot of, it is
And
very
David,
fun to
yes,
see
they are available.
and really interesting to see the approach.
Looks like, yeah. Annie, you said they were stocked in like 60 green techs already, possibly, or? Okay.
Yes, I believe about 60 green tech locations do have these in stock, and if not, we can get them to them very quickly. So they are readily available
I'll add
now.
that you can design your projects now with the hub mount by going to the design tool and choosing comp shingle roof type, and then choosing the Halo Ultragrip rafter attached or deck attached if you choose that to design your project.
We can also plug tech support at ironridge.com. If you do have any questions or issues designing, you can always reach out to tech support at ironridge.com. We have a fantastic team that will directly answer any questions, or if you call, somebody will actually pick up the phone and answer any questions that can help you design your projects. And that goes for not just Hug, but other products as well. A live video of the installation on a real roof. That's interesting, Sue. Do we have any
Yeah, I don't think
live
there's anything on the website at the moment,
videos?
but
We'll have to
possibly
see if there's
Angie
one that we can share.
could be posting something on the site.
Okay, Angie just responded that she will very soon. And Angie has an update to the question about low slope that we will very soon have something available.
Sure. Actually, we said
Did
the
you guys
opposite.
say don't use an impact on screws?
Our
So
installability tests required it to be installable with an impactor. We know that most installers will show up to the job site with a 18 or 20 volt impactor with the big battery, and we wanted to make sure that our screw was able to handle that without stripping out. And I've been on many, many job sites with this product, and very few screws have stripped. And it was usually due to the installer trying to find out where that moment was where it stripped. The impactor will give you a lot of feedback. It will tell you that you're not in the rafter because you won't hear it labor all the way down. And then you can just sort of give it a soft landing. And it really does work with an impactor. Yes, as we said in the presentation, there are other products that you're not allowed to install with an impactor because they know their screws will strip. This is the opposite.
Thanks for thinking of the installers. I have to say, we always talk about people, products, partnership, and one of the things that as I mentioned early on, 4 years at IronRidge, that I truly believe sets IronRidge apart is the people behind the products. Sue and the product performance team, the marketing team, the engineering design team, the years of experience that and thought that goes into in terms of the installer experience on the roof is at the forefront of everything that we do and the products that we bring to market. So Kurt, really glad that you see that in this product presentation, and look forward to getting your feedback once you get a chance to
I have seen many problems with heads snapping off on other products, and that's why we had to create our own structural screw. There wasn't a single product in the marketplace from ITW or OMG or any of those screws that met our requirements. We literally had to create our own screw, and I am not seeing heads snapping off this product, even with the 20-volt impactor. I think that maybe, Annie, I'm going to upfront the question, why are the screws more than other screws? And that's the reason, is that we had to create our own screw. And you will see that our screw is more expensive than the screws for the other products. And that's because it's a special screw and it does its job perfectly every time, unlike the other screws.
This is a very good point, Sue.
And I will just add to that and say that Hug is not engineered or warranted with any other screw. You must use the RD structural screw, and it should be shown on the plan sets as a no substitution part number. I encourage you to watch the installation video. I believe you can go to ironridge.com/hugme and see all of our resources, including our install manual and an installation video and all of the documents that you need to design with Hug. And maybe, Angie, you can throw that link up there for people. There it is. It's the more complicated link, but it still works great.
So it sounds like I don't think everybody can see the chats. So we may have to email them out after. Angie, we'll have you email them out to everybody, to all the attendees. Unless am I able to publicly post them, Stuart?
Oh, sorry. Posting in the thread here, you mean?
Yeah, it looks like.
I'm not sure. I can see them.
Okay, I am as
Yeah,
well.
I think we're going to have to.
We'll also send a follow-up email with all of the info.
Oh, that explains it. Only admins can see the chat.
Only we can see the chat. All right. Well, really great questions, fantastic engagement, and thank you everyone for all.